So the question is, how do we ensure that we have ongoing and continuous efforts for change in an organization? How do you have an ongoing rebellion? In other words, sometimes our experience is that somebody will get a new innovation implemented, and then that innovation becomes sacrosanct and nobody can challenge that new status quo. Now, I think that there are a lot of assumptions built into this question. And the first assumption is that stasis is preferable to change, that the ideal situation at work is when everything remains constant, and the extraordinary, unusual situation at work or in any organization is when you have to change. And I think that's the problem with organizations and what lies at the heart of this question. Buddha, I think, said that everything must change. Change is a constant. And it's not change that is difficult, but it's the resistance to change that is painful. I think he had a point. And how I would put it is this way, particularly today, in the world we live in today, how quickly, ask yourself a series of questions. One, how quickly do you think the environment around you is changing? Is it changing at a rate of 1% a year? Is it changing at a rate of 50% a year? Is it changing at a rate of 5% a year? The environment that is relevant to your organization, what's the rate of change in that environment? When I ask that question of teams or executive leadership groups, I often get the deer in the headlights look. It's like they had never asked themselves that question. But that's question number one. What's the rate of change relevant to the environment that your organization operates in? Now, question number two is, given that you acknowledge that rate of change, what percentage of your operations, of your standard way you do your work, has to change every year to keep up with that rate of change? Aha, another question I find organizations never ask themselves. So I've got, a certain set of operating procedures. Do I need to change 5% change or refresh 5% of them a year to stay up with the changing environment around me? Is it 10% a year? Is it 1% a year? What's that rate? Now, once you kind of, and of course, these are ballpark figures, right? Once you get an idea of what that appropriate refreshment rate for your organization's operating procedures needs to be, then the third question is, what is my process for identifying which parts of my operating procedures I need to tackle in any given year? How do I determine what part of my protocol I need to alter to keep up with the rate of change in the outside world? Again, a question that is not asked. But if you, as members of a group or even a management team, if you think about the way you do your work with that context in mind, I think that you will have ongoing refreshment of your organization. You'll do a better job at keeping up with the changes in the outside environment, such as technology and demographics and pandemics. And change will not be so painful. And the people that can help you identify what needs to change and how to change it are those people in your organization who are more iconoclastic, who are more creative, who are prone to looking at things differently and kind of enjoy taking a different look at circumstances and how you do your work. So that's my answer to how do you ensure that there's a continuous rebellion in the workplace? Well, my answer is that you ought to be operating from that mindset from the beginning, and you need to ask yourselves those three questions. Now, you may notice over my, I guess as you look at it, left shoulder, there's an Naboo N1 class starfighter that I have propped up against the door there because I realized there was this big white expanse and it kind of looked odd in the frame. So, grasping for something to put there, of course, I had handy a large mock up inflatable version of an Naboo starfighter. You're welcome.